violations. You talked about that for other things, the idea that the contracts came up, I think, whatever that was, with the electric box or over, I think, your building, Charles. But I'm not sure what I need examples that would say, okay, we've had a problem, therefore we need to address the problem rather than, okay, this is a good idea that we just want to employ.
Well, I'll give you an example. Where is the copy of the insurance assessment for the condo? The report that was generated by the insurance assessment.
Well, why?
Okay, so
I'm gonna
when anyone
be.
buys a place, there are certain disclosures that need to be made. And in that report will detail the things that need to be fixed, and the condo is responsible for taking care of and maintaining the premises, right? I still
So are
haven't
you
seen
saying
that
that
today. That those are the
so?
kinds of
Are,
documents that are required as part of a condo association to
have
maintain
you
and
asked
have
for that?
accessible. Yes, I've asked for it.
And when? And when did you ask for it?
I have sent that request again most recently.
When
Please
did you
check your
ask for it?
email because you asked me
No,
to
just tell me.
resend
Tell me
my
when you asked
request.
for it, so we have this conversation.
I have resent it to you because you asked me to resend my request, and I sent it. It's in the group discussion board.
And
It's
when
in
was
there,
that?
my request, last month.
When was that? Last month,
Yes,
after the last meeting?
right after the meeting.
Okay. Okay. So you're saying that you haven't received that information, therefore it's not available. We can't find it. We need a system that would provide it. Or what are you saying because of the fact that you haven't received
I haven't received
a
it, and
re
I'm waiting to do an abatement with the city of Madison over the value of the condo because of all the things that had to be repaired. So the value they have for the property assessment is wrong.
Okay, I understand that. What I'm trying to get at in terms of our business is why what are you suggesting needs to be done
It needs to
that
be in an
that's not in
accessible
place
place
that
that
would
we
make
can
that more
get to.
available to you?
We need to
Pardon?
be able to access it because if I need to take Ishmael to court for the repairs that had to be done, which he didn't complete, then
So
I'm
you're
basically sitting here waiting for these documents and I'm
so you're
losing time.
assuming that that can't be provided.
I've been asking for it and it hasn't been provided. If it was there, I could grab it
Okay,
and file what needs to be filed.
I think you asked for it once, but I could be wrong because
No,
I'm
I asked
but
for it at the very first meeting that I attended. I asked for it after the meeting
verbally.
in email.
Yeah, but I don't recall that
Please go and
was
read.
asking for
Go and
insurance.
read them. It is
Okay,
in there.
I don't want to get sidetracked. 'Cause I need to focus
But
on.
this is what this
So
is about, that these
I understand
documents
what
that are
you're
not
saying.
accessible when someone needs to get things done. If they're not accessible, I'm
That's
trying
the
to
point.
request it and I'm repeating
That's the
myself and getting
point.
irritated about that. It's
That's
a
my
waste of
point.
time.
You're saying it's not accessible. I'm saying it is. Now, the fact that you haven't gotten a response doesn't necessarily have anything to do with whether it's accessible or not. And what I'm saying to you is, I don't want to implement a system if the issue is it hasn't gotten to you. That's one discussion. That's one issue. Whether it's accessible or not is different. And what we're talking about is accessibility. So I don't want to, so that's my point. I'm not arguing with you, Charles, about how many times you asked or whether you got a timely response, all that. We can talk about that and we can be brought up to date and maybe we were missed, maybe we weren't. But we're talking about accessibility. And what I'm trying to say is I don't see, I haven't come up with anything that says we need to develop a system to make things accessible because basically we've never had an issue with accessibility. So that's why I asked for an example. What you give me an example of is timeliness in response, not accessibility.
All these things I'm talking about have a timeline that they have to be done with it, and I've missed them 3 times already. So
Okay, but
this
that's
and
not accessibility.
that
I'm saying to you, what we can talk about that. That's a different issue than what we're meeting here for my half hour. My half hour is to say, look,
Then we
do
should
we need a
reschedule when you have the
system?
time to deal with this properly, because this is something that should have been 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the most.
Charles, that's not why we're meeting. We're not meeting because of your particular request and whether you got a response in the timeliness that you feel is appropriate. We're meeting to talk about accessibility of documents or transactions or whatever it is, the concerns that you raised. We can talk about that. I didn't schedule that. That's not what we're talking about today. I want to talk about the need for some system that makes things accessible. And I'm saying my experience is we don't have an issue there. The issue you're bringing up, Charles, isn't accessibility of the documents. They are there. The issue of why it hasn't gotten to you, that's we can talk about that, but not today.
And this is why I've been asking for it, and this is why we ended up having this. That it
That's not why
shouldn't
you
be
were
something
asking.
that takes this long to do. You say it's accessible. Why haven't I received it?
That's a different question. You're assuming that because you haven't received it, it's not accessible. I'm telling you that's not the case.
And
Okay?
I am telling you you're wrong, because if I've been asking for it and it can't even be delivered,
Well, how do you
then
know,
where is
Charles?
it?
Just
I
because
have
you have,
asked for it multiple times, and this is the issue.
okay, okay, but how do you know it's not accessible? Because you haven't
Because I have
received it,
asked for
correct?
it multiple times and it has not been delivered. How many times
Okay,
does it
I'm
need to be
telling you.
requested to be delivered?
So what I'm saying to you is we can look at that. It's not an accessibility issue. It's not, okay? You may not know that because you haven't received it, but that's not the issue.
If I haven't received it and I've been here almost 5, 6 months, that tells a very different. That's very evidently wrong. If it's accessible, why haven't I received it? And it's not going to be something that only affects me.
Well, what I'm saying to you, Charles, is that's not what I'm talking about today. You want to talk to me directly, or you want to have a schedule another meeting where you talk about that while you haven't received it. But it's not, I'm telling you, it's
You're
not
saying
an
it's
accessibility
accessible, but
issue
it clearly is not.
to you, or
So is there
but
discrimination going on where it is not being given to me for some reason?
that's a whole, like I'm saying, Charles, my intent for this meeting is to say, do we need a system of tracking? Because that's what's been suggested. Whether you got a timely response, it has nothing to do with whether there's a tracking system or whatever it is you might think we might need. You still might not, even if the system was in place that we might put in place, you still might not have received that response. I'm saying to you, that's not the issue. But I'm not gonna, so let's focus on whether we need a tracking system, not your personal situation, Charles. And I'm not trying to minimize that. I'm just saying that's not why I'm talking. I'm trying to say, do we need a system? I don't see a need for it. I do see a need for addressing your concern about timeliness. They're two different things.
As far as the record system, even things like the vermins that are damaging the siding or chewing through the insulation, if we had that record, we would know what is causing some of these leaks. Or, like, let's say Ellen's unit that's just been repaired. If something happened again and she had moved out, we would know there had been a problem there before. And it's quick to find those kinds of things that happen.
I'm
That's why
saying we
this
can
is
do that.
important.
I'm saying we've never had an issue where we haven't been able to do that. And if we, and I'm saying it's not that it's a bad idea. I'm just saying I'm not willing to layer on and develop a system that we haven't needed because somebody's going to have to do that. And we haven't had an issue with getting the kind of information follow up on a given unit. And I don't, I, so that's my point. I looked back, I looked at notes, I looked at that hasn't been an issue.
Interesting.
So I'm suggesting that that's not something we make priority at this point in time.
I think that is very wrong because these are records we need to be keeping so that we know, for example, with the property assessment report from the insurance company, what is damaged and what needs to be repaired and what the priority is for the whole board so we have a proper schedule of priorities.
I'm saying we have that information. We have a long range plan.
And where is
We
it?
have the records as to what has been done. So I don't, I'm
What
just
are you
saying,
hiding and where is it?
why are you accusing me of hiding
I'm
something?
asking you where it is because I've been
You know,
asking for these documents so I can correct the property assessment. Since I moved in, I've been asking for it. You're telling
and
me that it's accessible, and why
you were
haven't I received
given,
it?
well, no, I'm not going to go there. If you want to talk about your personal situation, we can do that, but not here. I
It
do
is not a
know that you were
personal thing,
given
it is a
information.
fact of the Condo Association requirements that we are supposed to have access to this information.
You were given information. If that hasn't satisfied you, we can talk about that. But that's not the issue that we're here talking about today. Today is, do we need to develop a system for tracking? And I'm saying those records have been available. You didn't get what you asked for in a timely manner. I'm saying to you that we can look at, but it's not because we don't have information. And I'm saying I don't see a need to do that, build a system that somebody will have to manage because we have it. That's all I'm saying to you. The issue of to whether why you're frustrated, I understand that. I see it. I hear you. But that's not what we're here talking about today. I know in your mind and in your experience, they're
Alan, you cannot
conflated
speak for
because
me because these
what?
two things are closely intertwined. Knowing what has happened and what needs to be done, those two are
We
intertwined.
know what's happened. We know what's happened.
And where's the record of it?
We have the records with Rose.
Rose, do you have them to send right now?
What do you mean send right now? The response to your request?
Yes.
I told you we're not doing that today. We can talk about that. I'm telling you today we're talking about whether we need a system that will allow us to access records that we can't find or don't have. I'm saying that's the point. That's what I'm here for. And if we don't, if we can't come up with situations that tell us we need this system because we don't have it, fine. But if that's not needed, I'm not willing to do that. I am willing to say to you, Charles, let's look at your request and figure out why you didn't get it. What I'm also saying to you is it's not because there are no records.
So when we were going around and looking at when they were doing the windows, in our meetings, it's been brought up multiple times. We have no record in the switch from Bruner to Sage, the reason behind why some of those windows were boarded up, right? And this is another example of many that multiple times there are things that have been changed and we don't have any records for.
What is it that you're saying we don't have records for? The Bruner, they haven't been here for years. I'm saying we have records for the walk around. Rose was going to distribute that before the next meeting. So again, Charles, it's not like that information isn't there. I don't see a way of recording it that will improve accessibility. It's there. So it, you, and I'm just saying I don't see another system that's going to make it more reliable or more quicker. It's there. So let's go to the second point that the second construct here. The if if we want what we can look at is whether whether we whether Google Drive as we're using it works or whether we need to look at something more comprehensive in terms of like Google Workplace or we're not or Google, well, we use Google Docs and it kind of goes to Drive. I mean, that may be a question as to what's most effective for us in terms of organized storage, and a transition should say, at some point we have another change like we did from Bruner to Rose. But that's a storage issue. And I'm willing to say, if you want to look into what the best situation is there, we can look at that. That's different than developing a tracking database system per se. But maybe if we move to a different drive resource, maybe there is some organizing.
Any
So
search
I've looked at
database
I've looked at
system is
some.
still going to rely on having the current missing information. You say it's accessible wherever it is. It's still going to require importing that information. The main objective of this discussion, first in the first place, is to have a way for us to anyone to be able to find the records relating to their
No,
unit.
no, no, that's not anyone. Anyone is not entitled to all the information. It's specifically indicated by statute what is accessible and what isn't. So your allegation or your
Alan,
idea that
even
everything
from
is
being on the board, I can't
accessible,
even find documents.
yeah,
Not
that may
just any,
be.
but
So that's the point. The point is, if we need to look at how it's stored, that's fine. That's different than the tracking system. But I appreciate the fact that you've moved on to the idea of how do we store this information and therefore the accessibility.
most of what Sonia had worked on is stored in the Google Drive. And what I've been
I
asking
don't,
for is the things that are missing from it.
that's the point. The question is not Sonia. It's the question is, do we need, is that sufficient? If it's not, then we look at an alternative source. Is the drive that we're using, does it have enough capacity for us to move everything onto it?
It
And then
has
the
a lot
question
of
is
space on there. So it's a matter of getting the record to add to it.
who has access. So
That's what
I
I've
don't
been asking.
know. So I don't know that. So somebody has to do some analysis as to, you say there's a lot of space. I don't know that that's sufficient space for the type of records that we're looking to move, to transfer over. If it is, fine. Then we look at, okay, how do we structure that? But if it's not, then we have to look at a different source.
So
So
where are
I guess
those
I'm
records?
asking, what's that?
Where are the records?
What do you mean? What records are you specifically referring to?
The contracts, the insurance, property assessment that was done.
Rose has those records.
Okay. Rose, please can
Rose,
you
the
send me a
property
copy?
manager, maintains those records. So when a request comes in, it goes through Rose to provide the information.
Yes, and I've requested that four
Well,
times
that's
now.
Charles, I'm telling you,
Alan, this
that's
is
not
exactly
an
the
issue.
point. That accessibility, even when requested, this is not something that takes rocket science to do. Anyone can log into a drive to get the
Why
information that
don't
is
why don't
needed.
you why don't why don't you just why don't you just accept for now what I'm telling you?
No,
And
I
and
do
if you want
not.
to,
These
well,
are
I said for
legally
now. I
required
said for
documents.
now. Charles, I said for now. I didn't say forever that you'd be satisfied. I'm just saying for now, accept that, and we can talk about that in a different context when we have more than 5 more minutes. Okay? Because you keep going back to your request, and I'm saying to you that is not what we're talking about. You're using as an example, I'm saying, and it's a good example because I asked for examples, But what I'm saying to you is what you're assuming because you haven't received the information is that somehow it's not there or not accessible. I'm just telling you that's not true.
The
But we can
example I'm
talk about
using
that.
is to demonstrate that this accessibility is something that could have been done in 10 minutes. It should not have
Well,
taken 7 months to
so you're not going to
resolve.
let that go. You're not going to let that go.
I have to pursue it because I am waiting to work with things with the city of Madison on an
Well,
abatement for my
you're not going to
taxes. Now
get
I've
it in
had
the
to
next
file
five
taxes
minutes,
and I have to go
Charles.
and
So I'm saying
change
to
it.
you, do you want to set up a time to talk to me about this?
What are you going to do other
No,
than
do you
send me the
want to set
records
up
that
a
have been
time to
requested
talk
multiple
about this?
times already?
Do you want to do that?
What I would like is for you to send me the record so I can go sit down with the city of Madison and resolve what needs to be resolved.
So I'm taking that as a no. Okay, then we'll just work with what you've requested. Okay, I'm saying to you, you want to talk about it and the implications and how it relates to the system, fine. But if not,
What I
we'll
am
just work
trying to
on a
talk about
response to your
today
request.
is
I'll
resolving
make
this so
sure
that it
that you,
doesn't happen again for anybody else.
well, but that's the point is, what is it that has caused or led to your situation, which is different from what might come up in a different context. So I'm saying to you, if you want to talk about that, we can. Otherwise, we'll just make sure you get the information you requested. Okay? And I'm hearing not much progress in terms of the question I asked about the database. So I guess if I'm not hearing that that's something you want to look at, I'll continue to do that, take that upon my own self and my own timing. That's why you and Ellen are here to so as a group we could say, okay, these are the things that we agree to need to be done and elicit your cooperation in doing that. If not, I'll continue to look at
The point is,
the
right now, what
database.
you're doing is not effective. It's
Okay,
deficient. Like,
well,
even the
that's your
database that we have
opinion.
now is
That's
missing the
you're right.
information that has
You're
been
and
requested.
that's why I said, do you want to volunteer to work on this, but not to have a discussion about your particular frustration
And
with
that's
your
why I'm here.
request?
I said, yes, I wanted to work on this. But
And
it
so now I'm
involves
saying to
needing these
you,
documents which can be
that
added to build
needs
on
to
that.
be the question that we need to address is storage capacity
There isn't a
and
storage
whether,
capacity issue.
okay, then I'll continue to work on that. I'm going to have to, well, I've got 2 more minutes. We'll work
The
on,
capacity is
we'll
not
work
the issue.
on
It's access to the information that is the issue.
there's not a problem with access, but if you want, we'll work on getting a response. I'll make sure that you get a response to your requests.
And how long should that take? Because I've been asking for this since June, July, August.
I can't answer that right now, but I'll make sure that I would do that expeditiously. That's done expeditiously. So, all right, we're at this point, I'm gonna call this meeting to a close. We'll work in your particular response, Charles, and we'll give some thought to where we might go here system wise. Okay, I'm gonna sign off. I understand you're frustrated, Charles. We'll get a response. If you want to talk, let me know. Thanks.
Bye bye.